On our vacation, her betrayal, she snapped, "I met someone who makes me feel alive, we are done," so I took the first flight home and changed the locks. She returned to an empty home and an icy lawyer's note. It's a chilling question, isn't it? To hear the person you're about to propose to, the one you've loved for 6 years, look you in the eye and say, "I met someone who makes me feel alive. This is over." That's how my dream vacation, my entire future, crumbled into dust. The Greek sun, usually so vibrant and welcoming, felt like a cruel joke that day. The impossibly blue Aegean, the whitewashed villages, all blurred into a backdrop for the slow, agonizing collapse of my entire future. Just moments before, I'd been ready to ask Chloe to be my wife. I'm a 32-year-old software engineer, and 6 months ago, I truly believed I had life all figured out. Chloe, 30, worked in marketing. We'd spent 6 incredible years together, years filled with inside jokes, lazy Sunday mornings, and finishing each other's sentences. 6 years building what I foolishly thought was an unshakable foundation. We had our routines, our shared dreams, even a shared Netflix account and petty squabbles over who ate the last yogurt. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or so I believed, with every fiber of my being. I'd meticulously planned this trip to Greece for 8 months. Every hotel, every restaurant, and especially, the perfect spot on Santorini where I'd drop to one knee. The ring was custom-made, a sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds, because Chloe always found traditional solitaires too predictable. She wanted something that told a story. I'd rehearsed the proposal countless times in my head, every word, every gesture, even a backup plan in case my emotions got the better of me. The first 2 days in Greece? They were absolutely magical. The kind of picture-perfect scenes that make your friends green with envy on Instagram. We had breakfast on our balcony, overlooking the Aegean, the water so impossibly blue it almost hurt to look at. We wandered through ancient, whitewashed villages, bougainvillea spilling over every wall, held hands on black sand beaches that warmed our feet, and laughed until our stomachs ached over cheap Greek wine. Chloe seemed genuinely happy, radiating a joy that reached her core. I remember taking a photo of her with the sunset behind her, thinking, this is it. This is the woman I'll grow old with. This is the moment our lives change forever. Then, on day 3, something shifted. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but once I noticed, it became glaringly obvious. She mentioned wanting to try a morning yoga class at the resort. Fine by me, I'm not a yoga guy. So, I went for a run along the coast, breathing in the salty air, feeling grateful for my life. But when she returned 2 hours later, she was different. Glowing, yes, but it wasn't the piece of yoga or meditation. It was something else, something that made my gut clench, even though I couldn't understand why. She was constantly on her phone, smiling at the screen in a way that felt intimate, private, like I was intruding just by being in the same room. I asked casually who she was texting, and she quickly replied, "Just Emily from work." Her boyfriend drama again. But Emily's name wasn't on the screen when I glanced over. And when she noticed me looking, she angled her phone away. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the proposal stress was making me see things that weren't there. Day 4 was worse. Significantly worse. She went to yoga again, stayed even longer this time. Came back smelling like incense and something else I couldn't identify. That night, I suggested we go to this amazing seafood restaurant I'd found, the one with hand-painted tiles and an owner who supposedly sang to guests. She barely touched her grilled octopus, just pushed it around her plate, staring out at the water with distant eyes. I reached for her hand across the table, and she pulled away. Not aggressively, but definitely deliberately. "I'm just tired," she murmured. "The sun is really draining me. You know how I get." Back in the room, I tried to initiate intimacy, hoping physical closeness would bridge whatever gap was forming between us. She turned away, mumbling something about a headache and needing to hydrate. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, listening to her phone buzz quietly on the nightstand, feeling something cold and heavy settle in my chest like a stone. Day 5. That was the day everything exploded. The day my carefully constructed future collapsed like a sandcastle at high tide. I'd made reservations weeks ago at the nicest restaurant on the island, perched on a cliff edge with panoramic caldera views. The ring was in my jacket pocket, my hands sweating so badly I kept wiping them on my pants under the table. We sat down, ordered wine that cost more than my first car payment. I was waiting for that perfect moment, when the sky turned that particular shade of orange that photographers chase for hours. But before I could say a word, before I could even begin my carefully rehearsed speech, she put down her wineglass with a sharp clink and looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Eyes that belonged to a stranger. "We need to talk," she said. Those 4 words made the ring in my pocket feel like it weighed 1,000 pounds, dragging me down through my chair and into the earth. I nodded, unable to speak, my mouth suddenly dry despite the wine. She continued without hesitation. "I met someone. The yoga instructor. His name is Matteo, and I don't know how to explain this, but he makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years." She said it like it was a revelation, like she'd discovered fire or the meaning of life. "With you, I exist. I go through the motions. I'm comfortable. I'm safe. I'm content. But with him, with Matteo, I actually feel like I'm living. Like every nerve in my body is awake for the first time." I sat there, completely frozen, while tourists at nearby tables laughed, clinked glasses, and took selfies. The sun set behind her head like some cosmic joke, mocking my pain with breathtaking beauty. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. I wanted to scream, to flip the table. But only one question came out, barely a whisper. "What are you saying, Chloe?" She looked at me with something that might have been pity, or perhaps relief. "I'm saying this is over. I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't plan this, but I can't ignore what I feel. You should stay. Enjoy the rest of the vacation. The hotel is paid for anyway. I already talked to Matteo, and I'm going to stay at his villa for the rest of the week." The ring was burning a hole in my pocket. 6 years, reduced to rubble in a sunset restaurant while a waiter hovered nearby with dessert menus. She reached for my hand, probably to comfort herself more than me. I pulled back like she'd burned me. "I hope you can understand someday," she said, standing up and smoothing her dress. "I really do care about you. I hope you know that." And then she walked away, her sandals clicking on the stone floor, leaving me sitting there alone with 2 glasses of wine, a basket of bread, and a $3,000 engagement ring that suddenly meant absolutely nothing at all. I don't remember paying the bill, or how much I tipped, or even walking back to the hotel room that still smelled like her perfume. I just remember sitting on our balcony until 3 in the morning, staring at the dark sea, clutching that little velvet box. Something inside me turned to ice. Cold, hard, and unbreakable. I sat there until the sun began to rise over the Aegean, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that felt like an insult to my misery. My phone showed 5:47 a.m. I hadn't slept a minute. The engagement ring sat on the small table next to an empty bottle of whiskey I'd ordered from room service. I honestly couldn't remember when. My hands were shaking, partly from the alcohol, partly from the rage that was slowly replacing the shock. Chloe's suitcase was gone. She must have come back while I was sitting there in the dark and packed her things, too cowardly to face me again. Good. I didn't want to see her face. But as I sat there watching the island wake up, boats leaving the harbor, early morning joggers on the beach below, something crystallized in my mind. I wasn't going to be the pathetic guy who stayed in Greece alone, wandering the romantic spots we'd planned to visit, crying into overpriced cocktails. I wasn't going to give her that story to tell Matteo about how broken I was. No. I was going to do something she would never expect. Something that would utterly shift the power dynamic. I pulled out my phone and started searching for flights. There was one leaving Athens in 6 hours. I could make it if I left immediately. I booked it without hesitation. Business class. Not because I needed it, but because regular economy was full, and honestly, I suddenly didn't give a damn about money. Then, I opened my laptop and started making a list. A very specific, very methodical list of everything I needed to do. First item, change the locks on our apartment. The apartment was in my name. I'd put down 80% of the down payment because Chloe was still paying off her student loans. Second item, contact a lawyer. Third item, pack her things. Fourth item, remove her from everything, bank accounts, utilities, streaming services. All of it. I felt eerily calm as I typed, like I was planning a project at work, breaking down a complex problem into manageable tasks. By 6:30 a.m., I had checked out of the hotel, told the front desk there was a family emergency, and was in a taxi heading to the airport. The driver tried to make small talk about how beautiful Santorini was, and I just stared out the window, running through my mental checklist. I landed in New York at 2 a.m. local time. Exhausted, but wired on adrenaline and airport coffee. The first thing I did was call a 24-hour locksmith service, the kind that charges triple for emergency calls. I need my locks changed right now. Tonight. I can pay whatever you want. The guy on the phone heard something in my voice that made him not ask questions. He arrived at 3 a.m. with his equipment, a middle-aged man with tired eyes who'd probably seen every kind of domestic situation imaginable. Bad breakup? He asked, drilling out the old lock. Something like that, I replied, watching him work with a satisfaction that felt almost physical. By 4 a.m., I had new keys, and the old ones were in the trash. Chloe's keys, the ones she'd had for 4 years, were now useless pieces of metal. Next was the lawyer, but that would have to wait until business hours. I tried to sleep, but couldn't. Instead, I started going through the apartment with garbage bags and boxes. Every single item that belonged to her, every piece of clothing, every book, every makeup product, went into boxes that I labeled with a black marker in neat block letters, Chloe's belongings. Box 1 of 15. It took me 6 hours. I was meticulous, careful, even making sure nothing was damaged, because I didn't want to give her any ammunition to claim I'd destroyed her property. Her winter coats, her collection of scented candles, the blender her mother gave her, the throw pillow she'd insisted we needed. All of it. I even packed the photos of us together, every single framed picture, wrapped carefully in newspaper. By noon, I had 15 boxes stacked in the living room, and the apartment looked completely different. Like she'd never existed there. At 9 a.m., I called my lawyer, Daniel, who'd been my friend since college. Daniel, I need your help, and I need you not to ask too many questions right now. I explained the situation in clinical terms. No emotion. Just facts. Chloe and I had been together 6 years. The apartment was in my name. We had some shared accounts that needed to be separated. She had abandoned the relationship while we were on vacation. Daniel was quiet for a moment, then said, "Come to my office at 2 p.m. We'll handle this." At 1 p.m., I made the hardest call of the day. To Chloe's parents, David and Susan, who'd always treated me like the son they never had. "Susan, it's me. I need to tell you something, and it's not easy." I explained what had happened in Greece, keeping my voice steady, not editorializing, just stating facts. Susan started crying. "Oh, honey. Oh, no. We had no idea. She hasn't called us." David got on the phone. "What do you need from us?" I told him, I have her belongings packed. 15 boxes. I can bring them to you, or I can put them in storage, but I can't have them here. I'm sorry to put this on you, but I didn't know what else to do. David's voice was firm. Bring them here. We're so sorry. You didn't deserve this. I rented a van and drove to their house in New Jersey that afternoon, after meeting with Daniel. Loading and unloading those boxes felt like shedding weight with each one. Chloe's parents helped me unload, both of them looking shell-shocked and older than I remembered. Susan hugged me before I left. You're a good man. She made a terrible mistake. By 8 p.m., I was back in the apartment, now truly mine and mine alone. Daniel had drawn up papers notifying Chloe that she was no longer authorized to enter the property, that her belongings had been removed and were available for pickup from her parents, and that all shared accounts would be closed within 5 business days. He'd also prepared a formal letter ending any legal cohabitation status we might have had. The letter would be sent to her via email and certified mail, CC'd to her parents' address. I stood in the middle of my living room, looking at the empty spaces where her things had been, and did something I hadn't expected. I smiled. Not a happy smile, but a satisfied one. I had taken control. I had refused to be the victim in this story. Chloe was probably still in Greece, posting sunset photos with Matteo, thinking I was back home crying, thinking she could return in a week and we'd have some big emotional conversation where she'd explain herself and I'd eventually forgive her, or at least give her closure. She had no idea what was waiting for her. I poured myself a drink, sat on my couch, my couch now, and allowed myself to feel the exhaustion. I had been awake for over 40 hours, flown across the Atlantic, and dismantled a 6-year relationship in less than a day. Tomorrow, I would block her number, remove her from all my social media, change passwords on everything. But tonight, I let myself sit in the quiet apartment and feel something that surprised me, relief. Whatever happened next, I had made my choice. I had chosen my dignity over waiting around to be hurt more. And that felt like the first honest thing I'd done in days. The week that followed was strange, almost surreal in its calm. I went to work. I hit the gym. Every morning. I started seeing a therapist that Daniel recommended who specialized in sudden relationship trauma. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just moved forward with the same methodical precision I'd used to pack those boxes. My phone stayed silent, which meant Chloe still hadn't tried to come home. Daniel sent the legal documents on day 3, via email and certified mail to her parents' address, since we had no other reliable way to reach her. On day 8, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls from Chloe, a dozen text messages I didn't read, voicemails I deleted without listening to. I'd blocked her number the day after I got back, but she'd started calling from different numbers, probably borrowing phones from people at the resort, or maybe from Matteo himself. I didn't answer any of them. Every single communication went through Daniel now. That was the boundary I'd set, and I wasn't going to break it for anything. On day 9, my building's doorman called me at work. "Mr. Peterson, there's a woman here claiming to be your girlfriend. Says her key doesn't work." I felt my heart rate spike, but kept my voice level. "Her name is Chloe. She's not my girlfriend anymore. She's not authorized to enter the building or my apartment. If she causes any problems, call the police." "Understood, sir." That evening, when I got home, the doorman handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, 4 pages of Chloe's distinctive, loopy handwriting. I threw it in the trash without reading it. Whatever she had to say, whatever excuses or explanations or apologies she'd crafted on her flight home from paradise, I didn't need to hear them. The facts were simple. She'd chosen someone else. She'd blown up our relationship for a vacation fling. And now she had to live with the consequences. Daniel called me that night. "She contacted my office. She wants to talk to you. Says this is all a misunderstanding. That the guy in Greece meant nothing and she made a mistake." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that all communication goes through me. That her belongings are with her parents, and that you're not interested in any further contact." She got upset, Daniel added, started crying, said she just wants 5 minutes to explain. I closed my eyes, imagining her in Daniel's office, probably wearing the outfit she knew I loved, probably using the voice she used when she wanted something. "Tell her no. Tell her there's nothing to explain." She explained everything perfectly in that restaurant in Greece. 3 weeks went by. The certified mail came back, signed by Chloe's mother. The legal documents were official. I changed my phone number, something I'd been putting off because it felt so final. But final was exactly what I needed. I started going out with friends again, even accepted a dinner invitation from Emily, a woman from my company's marketing department who I'd always gotten along with. She was funny, warm, asked thoughtful questions about my work without prying into my personal life. It wasn't romantic, not yet, but it reminded me that there was life after betrayal. 1 month after Greece, I was having coffee at my favorite cafe near the apartment when I saw her. Chloe. Walking down the sidewalk with her mother, both of them carrying shopping bags. She looked terrible, honestly, like she'd lost weight she didn't need to lose. Her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. She saw me at the exact same moment I saw her. Our eyes met through the cafe window, and I watched the emotions play across her face, hope, then desperation, then something like panic. She started walking toward the cafe entrance, and I calmly stood up, left $20 on the table, and walked out the back entrance that led to the side street. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I just left. Because that's what you do when something is finished. You don't give it oxygen. You don't give it a stage. You just walk away. That night, I looked at the photo I'd taken of her in Santorini, the one with the sunset behind her where she looked so happy. I'd kept it on my phone. I'm not sure why. Maybe as a reminder of what I'd almost done, almost committed to. I deleted it and felt absolutely nothing. 2 months after Greece, Emily and I went on our first real date. She knew the basics of what had happened, the whole office had probably heard some version of the story, but she never pushed me to talk about it. We saw a movie, had dinner at a Thai place she recommended, and when she laughed at something I said, it felt genuine, and light, and uncomplicated. I drove home that night thinking about how Chloe had said Matteo made her feel alive, like being comfortable with someone was a deficit instead of a gift. She chased some fantasy of intensity and passion and traded away something real. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't feel much of anything about her. I just felt grateful that she'd shown me who she was before I'd put that ring on her finger. Sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. You just don't see it until you're standing on the other side, looking back at the wreckage, and realizing you're not in it anymore. You're free. What do you think about this story? Do you think I handled it perfectly, or was there another way I should have reacted? Let me know in the comments below. I'm reading everything.